Hi, friends. Welcome to tonight's webinar. I am so thankful you are here. My name is Cindy Bultema, and I'm the Executive Director of GEMS, and I'm also your webinar host tonight. And just want to give a warm welcome to all of the friends. It's been fun to see the conversation already taking place in the chat room and to have friends from San Francisco to Canada to New Jersey and everywhere in between. We are so thankful that you are here. Now, in case you're thinking, chat, where's the chat spot? Look down at the bottom of your screen and you'll see that chat button. Just make sure you're chatting to the panelists and the attendees. We have GEM staff behind the scenes, but we want to make sure you're talking to all of the attendees. And anytime tonight, feel free to just use your fingers and tap your keyboard or your thumbs to tap the screen on your phone. We want to make this interactive. So go ahead and practice now. And why don't you let us know where it is that you're coming from? And I see a conversation going through about weather. So feel free to add to that, especially if you have lots of sun. Let us know what sun is like because we're missing it here in Michigan. Because I'm coming to you live from the GEMS Global Office, which is right in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And GEMS is the sponsor of tonight's webinar. In case you're new to GEMS, welcome. GEMS stands for Girls Everywhere Meeting the Savior. And we are the go-to ministry for girls' spiritual growth. And for over 60 years, yes, 60 years, GEMS has been providing mentoring relationships and truth-filled resources to help impact the lives of girls near and far. So fun to see many of our GEMS mentors here who have been serving GEMS. In fact, we have about 5,000 mentors who help impact this next generation. But whether you are a mom, a mentor, or a ministry leader, a grandma, an aunt, anywhere in between, we are so thankful that you are here. GEMS wants to pour into women, to equip the moms, mentors, ministry leaders so that they can pour into the girls. And one of the ways that we do that is through these monthly webinars. So all are invited to the monthly webinar. So feel free to share. If you have a woman, maybe a next door neighbor who's wondering how to help the girl in her life, feel free to share the message of the webinar because we're here to serve you. So again, let's keep those conversations going. We want to know where it is that you're coming from. And while you do that, I want to show you a sneak peek. I mentioned we have mentoring relationships and truth-filled resources. And one of the new resources I'm super excited about with GEMS is our new Celebrate Easter activity box for girls. I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm like, Easter is more than just about chocolate bunnies, friends. And so we created this resource, this activity box. It's for girls 7 through 12 to help focus on the true meaning of Easter and have lots of fun too. So you'll find crafts and recipes and activities and a 10-day devotion just for girls focusing on the true meaning of Easter, written by our very own Lene Boltheis. So if you have a girl in your life, you're going to want to make sure you get a Celebrate Easter box, and I'll give you the information at the end how to do just that. And again, that's a sneak peek. It's not, if you go looking for it on the website, it's not there yet. Just wanted you to be one of the first to know. So tonight, the theme of our webinar is connecting girls in a disconnected world. I want to go ahead and leave a message in the chat. How many of you are wondering, how do we connect with girls? How do we help our girls connect to their peers? And how do we connect with our girls, especially in a COVID culture? I mean, regardless of whether you're from Ontario or from Ohio, anywhere in between, I think we would all agree it is not easy being a girl today. At GEMS, we often go through the A to Z's, the challenges, the pressures, the stresses that girls are faced with. Stresses like anxiety. They used to say 1 out of 5 girls struggle with anxiety. Some are saying now with COVID, 1 in 3. Or B, bullying. The stats with bullying are amazing. They say 1 in 3 students have been bullied by their peers at school, and 1 in 10 are impacted by cyberbullying. Or cutting. See, cutting. Did you know that girls are twice as likely than boys to cut? And 1 in 4 teenage girls harm themselves. We could go on. D, depression. E, eating disorders. F, FOMO, all the way down to Z, zits. Yep, it is not easy being a girl today, nor is it easy to be a mom, a mentor, or a ministry leader. But the good news is this, is that we are not alone in our struggle. We know the one who has all the answers, and we are linked together with other sisters in Christ who can help us on our journey. So tonight, when we think about one of the areas that girls are really struggling with, we think about connection. In fact, listen to some of these recent stats. It's a nationwide study that I was just looking at, said that 78% of fifth through eighth grade girls feel more lonely and more isolated. 78%. So you think about that. If we had 10 girls in the room, seven or eight would feel lonely and isolated. Wow, does that make my heart sad? Time magazine had said we had a loneliness epidemic before the pandemic. So, what about our girls now? We know that it's not easy. So, what do? Again, thankfully, we're not left to try to figure it out. So, tonight we're going to talk specifically about how to help our girls connect in this disconnected world. And to have this conversation, to enter into it, we have a very special guest for you. Her name is Regina Chari. Now, Regina has an MSW. She's also a child therapist. She's a missionary who lives in Zimbabwe, but she happens to be in Michigan for this season. She's a wife. She's a mom of two girls. She's also a pursuer of justice. She's an adoption advocate. She's a prayer warrior. She's a lover of Jesus and his word. She's an overcomer, and she is a dear friend of Gems. So, we're going to have a conversation about connection, and we're going to allow time for you to ask Regina questions at the end. So, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat. Again, that's located right at the bottom of your screen. We have Gems staff behind the scenes that'll be making notes, and I have my phone close by somewhere it's around here, and so they're going to text me any questions in case I miss them. I'll try to keep up with the scrolls, but we're here to serve you. So if you have questions, go ahead and send those in as well. Type those in. And again, at this time, I'm going to invite Regina, our dear friend Regina, to join us. Hi, Regina.
Hi, Cindy.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's so wonderful to be here with you tonight.
So I did a little bit of a brief introduction
Yes.
about who you are. Tell us some of the other fun things, like what brings you the most joy in life, and for someone they're meeting you for the first time, what would be helpful for them to know?
Sure. Well, the things that bring me the most joy are some of the things that are hardest to do right now. I love to travel. So that's really hard in the season. My 6-year-old daughter and I were talking about this because she often travels with me for work. And I think she had flown 30,000 miles by the age of 3. And she said, Mommy, do you think we'll ever go on an airplane ever again? And I was like, oh, sweetie, I hope so. I hope we are going to. Our family loves to go to the beach. We love to be outside in nature. We live in a landlocked country, so we have to enjoy the bush and looking at the animals there, which we love to do. We love playing board games. Well, I say me and my two girls, we love playing board games. My husband, it's his nightmare when we say, oh, let's have a game night. He rolls his eyes and dies a little bit inside. I just love having fun. I love connecting with people. I am a total extrovert and I do not like connecting through screens. So COVID has taken a toll on me. I've been feeling really exhausted lately, and I have to remind myself that face-to-face contact is what energizes me, and so that it's okay to feel tired by this season. What should people know about me? This is what I think this is one of the things I would like you to know about me before we even start, is that Cindy's right. I have degrees and I have experience, and I spend a lot of time with kids who are hurting. And there can be a lot of shame that women, especially who are moms, feel around the conversation that we're going to have tonight, around our kids' hurt and their pain and their experiences of trauma. We can often feel guilt and shame to say, well, why did this happen to my child? Why couldn't I protect them? Why do I not know what to do? How do I bring healing? You know, Cindy was talking, she was reading these stats, and my eyes were tearing up to hear about cutting and bullying and these things that we know our kids are experiencing. It still brings me to tears. But I want you to know that I'm also a mom. And even though this is my work, my kids still hurt. And my kids still struggle with how to express their hurt. They still have behaviors that I wish they wouldn't have, right? Just because I do this for my work doesn't mean that my family doesn't wrestle in the same way that yours does. And I don't want there to be shame interfering with the conversation that we're going to have tonight. And so I will tell you a little bit about my story as we go on, but I want you to know that I've also been a child who hurt. That I also was a child whose parents didn't have the coping skills to help me deal with my pain, or the coping skills to deal with their own pain. And my family disintegrated before my eyes as a little girl, and I lost my safety net. And that led to a path of addiction and suffering and trauma. But Jesus heals and Jesus redeems that. And as much as we love our girls and we want to be able to do everything we can for them, we also have to trust that God loves them and that He is doing everything that they need for their wholeness, for their redemption, and for His purpose in their life. So I just want you to know that we're going to talk about some things that are hard. Cindy has already mentioned hard things, but I don't want you to disconnect from the conversation with this wall of shame that can come up. What I want you to hear is that this is going to be a conversation, yes, maybe about hard things, but also about hope and healing and how we can bring our girls into that place of hope and healing.
Amen. I feel like we've already been to church. I love this, Regina. And we both know and we can celebrate that the message of Jesus is not shame on you, but
Yes.
shame off you. So thank you for reminding all of us that truth, that powerful truth right away. So to talk about connection, we know
Yes.
that girls long to belong. We see our girls struggling. They're hardwired for connection. Before about practical, we talk practical things. Just tell us like how much girls really do need connection. It's just not my girl who just wants to be on her phone all the time. Like this is,
Exactly.
tell us about that, please.
Exactly. We are, as human beings, hardwired for connection. Our brains and our bodies are actually created by God to be in connection, with ourselves. We know, and we're going to talk about tonight, all that can happen if we're disconnected from our own self. We are meant to be in connection with God, and we know the mess that happens when we are disconnected from God. And we are meant to be connected to one another. Our brains and our bodies are designed by God to be connected from conception, not just from birth, but from conception. And so our girls, when they say, I just need to be with my friends, they mean it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making up a story. They need to see their friends. They need to be with their peers. They also need to be with you, their parents, their mentors, their teachers, their church leaders. They need to be with you. They also need time by themselves, and they need time with God. We all need to be connected in all of those ways. There is an interesting study, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about, but I just want you to know that the Bible shows us that we need to be connected, right? There's Bible verses that talk about loving God with our mind, our body, and our spirit, right? All of those things need to be connected to Him. We hear in the Bible examples of how we need to love one another, how we need to gather together with other believers, how we need to be in the world. There's so many examples of how we need to be connected. But science also proves this thoroughly. And there was a study by a man named Harry Harlow a long time ago. And he did this research where he put these little monkeys in a room with a wire monkey mommy, a mommy made of wire. And she was very pokey and uncomfortable, but she had breasts that could feed, right? They had these fake pouches full of milk to breastfeed the babies. And they put another wire monkey that could not provide milk, but covered her with soft fabric. So she was comforting. And do you know that they were shocked by the research that the babies stayed with the mom that was comfortable, but not able to provide food? They only went to the mommy that could provide milk when they desperately needed to eat. And then they would run back to the other mama. And this research proves to us that we need to be connected. We need to feel comforted. We need to be nurtured by the people in our lives almost as much as we need to eat. And science shows us this. Just like we know we need oxygen and food and water, we need each other. Your girls need you. They need their friends. They need to be connected.
Wow. I'm going to have to think about these monkeys more. That's fascinating. That's fascinating. Well, when we hear connection, I think it's easy to think girls connect through talking, but what is connection? Like when we think connection, what really, how do we connect? What does that really mean? Is it just girls talking? Is it just on the phone?
That is a great question. Connection is more than talking. Connection can happen even without words. And this is so important. And we know this to be true. Anyone who's ever had a little baby, right? The moment that baby's handed to you in the delivery room, that baby is connecting to you, even though they can't use words. The baby is still connecting. You see, they're making eye contact, they're leaning into you, right? Their body language tells you that they are seeing you, that they are connecting with you, that they are hearing you. And it's the same with our girls. Connection is actually just the measure of an emotional relationship. So if you have an emotional bond with someone else, you are connected to them, and you can be connected in the same room. You can be connected on the phone. You can be connected via email. We know that face-to-face, in-person, present connection is the most meaningful, right? Because as human beings, we communicate in so many ways. And if you've ever gotten into an argument with your best friend over text or over email, and you're like, oh, she's just not understanding, that's not what I meant, you know that when we can't hear someone's tone of voice, we often misinterpret what they're saying. And so we need to have in-person connection. It's very important. We're best at that. However, we can connect with people in a variety of ways, and our girls can do that well too. If you have a healthy and whole emotional connection, a relationship with someone, then connecting with them via text and via phone calls or via email or, TikTok or however people are choosing to connect, that relationship carries on even when you're not together.
Wow. Okay. How about phones? You mentioned TikTok, so we're
Yes.
thinking apps. Oftentimes as parents, as mentors, we're like, put down the phone for crying
Yes.
out loud. Is that what we should be saying?
Yes and no. I mean, I think there has to be limits, right? We want to teach our girls healthy limits and to use technology wisely. We can use technology for our benefit or we can use it to our detriment, right? In the Bible, Paul talks about this. All things are beneficial, not all things are good for us. And
Yeah,
using
yeah.
our phone can be really great. It can also be really harmful. We need to set time limits on our phone. For us, Cindy, I don't know how old you are, but when I was a teenager, cell phones did not exist. I didn't have to worry about being on the internet in the middle of the night before I went to sleep. I didn't have to worry about that. But our kids have to worry about that. And we need to help them make wise choices about time limits for their phone and their screen time, what apps to use. Some apps are better for our kids to access than others. And as moms and mentors and ministry leaders, we need to be aware of what these apps are. We cannot just exit out of that conversation and say, I'm too old to know what TikTok is. We are not too old to know what TikTok is. We have to know what it is if we want to help our girls know how to use these things well. So I think, do our girls need to be connected through their devices? Likely. I mean, their generation, that's how they connect. However, we need to help them set appropriate boundaries. Every single thing our girls have learned, they have learned it through a relationship, right?
Mm.
They learned how to walk because we helped them learn. They learned how to write. My daughter's learning how to read and write right now. She's learning that because I'm teaching her. Emotional regulation and how to connect with other people is a learned skill. So we have to teach our girls this, and we teach them through our relationship. So we want to help our girls learn how to use their cell phones and their devices wisely. And the process of doing that is called scaffolding, where we set boundaries for our girls and we help them live inside of those boundaries. And then as they do that well, we start to remove some of our imposed boundaries so that they can set their own boundaries based on their values. So yes, are our girls going to use devices? Absolutely. It's going to be a losing battle for us to say no devices. What we want to do is help them use them well.
So what would you say to the mom or the mentor? But I'm thinking about if there's a parent, a Gem's grown up right now, who's like, you know what, during this pandemic, I just kind of said, you know what, screen time rules are out the window.
Yes.
Just keep busy, whatever you need to do. I got to work, I got to do things. And how do you recover that? Like, is there a way to
Yes.
enter back into connection if you've just kind of let those boundaries slip and slide, so to speak?
Totally. I mean, moms, I don't know about you, but our screen time has probably quadrupled in this pandemic. My girls do not actually in Zimbabwe have a ton of screen time. Our internet is very slow. We're very limited in our internet access, and so we have very limited screen time. I have just been noticing in the past couple of months how much TV, how much iPad, how, they're on their laptops for school, how much screen time they're having. And I've been a little bit worried about it to say, ooh, how do we go back to normal?
Yeah.
And we don't even know when normal is. We've let kind of everything fall out the window because we're in the middle of this pandemic, but no one told us it was going to be this long, right? We didn't know that the rules were going to be out the window for so long. I think what we have to do with our girls is we have to be honest. Our girls know when we are sincere and when we are not. And if we try to impose some rule that comes out of left field, out of nowhere, for what seems like no reason to them, they're going to call us on it. It's not going to feel sincere and they're going to rebel against that. But if we say to our girls, babe, we need to have a conversation. When the pandemic hit, we were all in chaos. We didn't have a lot of healthy coping skills to help us through this situation because none of us have ever had to do this before. And so I got a little lax on the cell phone time and the screen time and what apps we were using. I kind of let things slide for a little bit because we both needed a little bit of a break. But I'm realizing now that maybe I made a mistake, that we need to set some boundaries for you and for me so that we make sure that we're doing the right thing. If you have a conversation with your girl like that, she's going to listen, she's going to understand. And not only are you solving the problem of the screen time or whatever boundaries you need to reimpose, but you're also modeling for her how to say, ooh, wow, I might not be doing this right. Let's take a step back and try to do this better.
I love that. So probably my solution of just taking off my notification app off my phone.
Of the
Maybe I
time.
need to who needs to know that on Sundays? Um, I want to talk really practically for a second. I'm wondering if there's a mom or a mentor who's saying, so how else do I connect with my girl? Like what does this look like? Okay, so I'm going to talk to her. What else do I how do I connect with her? Especially I don't always understand her.
Yes. Well, if we understand connection as the emotional bond, then connection and how we connect can be a million different things. There's not one way to connect, and it's going to look different. It's going to look different based on your family culture. It's going to look different based on your hobbies, what things you like to do. It's also going to look different based on your time constraints. Every mom, every ministry leader is doing things at different times with their girls. And so I'm not going to give you one thing to do with your girl, but I am going to say, make a list of 2 or 3 things that your girl loves. And if you don't understand those things, learn them. Don't ask
Mm,
her to teach you about her video game. Don't ask her to teach you about the music that she likes. Find out what video game she plays, find out what artist she likes to listen to, and on your own, invest some time into figuring that out, and then come to her and say, you know what? I was listening to that song the other day. Tell me what you like about it. Or,
mm,
you know what? I was checking out some things about this video game that you love to play. Would you be able to teach me how to play that with you? I mean, how many of us, when we were kids or teenagers, had our parents come to us with the things that we were interested in and say, let's do this together? I would say probably not many of
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Usually as parents, we just kind of say, close your door and listen to your own music. I don't want to listen to that. And we don't have to like it, right? My husband loves a lot of things that I don't love. He was a professional cricket player. I don't understand anything about cricket. I don't like watching it. I don't want to go to the matches. They last like one cricket game can last like 5 days or something. It's a
Oh,
lot. And
that's a lot.
I don't want to be there. But I love my husband. And so one of the ways that I show him that I love him is I sit with him at least for a little bit of time while he's watching his cricket match. Or I'll go to the game with him for a little bit, right? Because I love him. Well, if I love my daughters, I want to show them that in the same way. So if they're watching their TV show, if they're reading their book, my eldest daughter is Harry Potter fanatic, right? Her biggest goal in life is to go to Harry Potter World. Her second biggest goal in life is to somehow have a phone conversation with J.K. Rowling. Like her whole life exists to love Harry Potter. And to be honest, I didn't really connect very well to the Harry Potter books. We read the first one out loud together, and if it would have been my choice, that we would have ended there. But it was the thing that gave her life. So every single person in our family knows everything about Harry Potter because that's the way that we connect with her. It's not about what we want to do, it's about what they want to do. So there are a million different ways to connect with your girls. We have to do the hard work of figuring out what is going to be the most meaningful activity with them. And moms, I know you're tired. I know you don't need an extra homework assignment to be a detective, about your daughter's favorite artist. But connection is our lifeline. And often parents will say to me, well, my teenager doesn't want to connect with me. And I'll say, I know they don't, but they're going to need you. They're going to need to connect with you, even when they don't want to. When the rubber hits the road on the hard days, they know that they have to come to you, that you are the one. You are their person. You are their God-given person. And so we work really hard when connection is hard so that when our girls need us, they know that they can come to us. And if we continue to, in our exhaustion, close the door and watch our own Netflix while they're watching their Netflix over and over and over every day, they're going to forget that they can come to us when it's hard. And this is why we connect, because our brains will remember mom can be trusted, mentor can be trusted, ministry leader can be trusted. They've put in the time over and over and over. And it does get hard as they get older, as they're teenagers in those rocky years, connection gets really hard. But the hard work that you've done to invest in connection in their early years pays off. I promise it does. I have a 17-year-old. I know how hard it can be, right? I'm not talking about this as an academic exercise. My 17-year-old sometimes doesn't want to connect with me, but I work really hard, even when she doesn't want connection, to offer it, because I know there's a day that's coming where she's going to need to connect with me. And she needs to know that I value her and that she's worthy, even when she doesn't make it easy.
That's good. That's good. I don't know about you, but as you're listening, I wonder if you're like, wow, I might have to go back and listen to some of this again. So just know that everyone will get the replay tomorrow so you can watch it or even have some girlfriends do a watch party together.
Mm,
Such great stuff you're sharing, Regina. We've talked a lot about moms. I wonder, we have a lot of mentors. Again, I mentioned almost 5,000 mentors across North America and beyond that serve. And you know firsthand the power of a mentor.
yes,
Can you share a little bit to our mentors who are thinking, does it even matter? You're
yeah,
talking a lot about moms. What does a mentor matter? Can you
yes.
talk about that?
Well, probably not without crying. Okay. When I was 7 years old, my parents were alcoholics. They were drug addicts, and our home was filled with chaos. But we were upper middle class in America, and we lived in the right neighborhood, and we went to the right schools, and we did all the right things. So no one on the outside really knew how much chaos our family was in. They probably should have guessed by the behavior that my brother and I were exhibiting at school, but they really didn't until the police intervened and my brother and I were removed from our home. And we went into the foster care system. And by the grace of God, my dad's parents, my grandparents, were able to become our kinship care foster parents. And we lived with my grandparents until we graduated from high school and went on to college and to live independently. But during that time, I had these grandparents who loved me so well. And my grandma is 83 years old and she still shows up to love me well. This is a woman who knows how to love in the hard times. But what she didn't know is that trauma and broken attachment and toxic stress, that interferes with our ability to feel loved. And so my grandma loved me to the best of her ability, but I wasn't able to receive that love because my ability to feel loved had been interfered with. And so I would feel lonely and I would feel lost and I would feel hopeless. And I just wanted my mom and dad, and they weren't coming back. And they didn't come back. Um, and I would go to school and I would cry and cry and cry in the middle of the school day, sitting at my desk in the middle of an exercise. Tears would be pouring out of my eyes, and my teachers did not know what to do with me. But I had a principal who did. Dr. Gutowski would, my teacher would go to her and say, I don't know what to do with Regina. She's like having a meltdown in the middle of class. And my principal allowed me a safe space to go to her office at any time of the day. If the tears started welling up, I would just go to her office and sit there. And sometimes she would have time to spend with me and sometimes she didn't, but that was my space to cry. And afterwards, her or her secretary or someone on the administrative team would take me to the bathroom. I would wash my face and I would go back to class. And she changed everything for me. Now, it didn't change the trajectory of my life totally. I still had to go through the trauma. I still had to do the healing work. I still made a lot of terrible decisions with unhealthy coping skills. But Dr. Gutowski showed me that I was worthy of her presence, that I was worthy of something better than just sitting alone in my pain. And then you fast forward until I was 19 years old. I was newly sober. I was 19 years old when I was in rehab for an alcohol and drug addiction. I had almost died at the age of 18 in my addiction. And things felt hopeless. They felt hopeless again. And the reality was I was disconnected in every possible way. I didn't feel connected or loved by God. I didn't feel connected or loved by myself. And I didn't feel connected and loved by my family. I had broken relationships in every single category of my life. And I walked into an AA meeting, an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and the women of Alcoholics Anonymous connected with me and they walked me through the process of healing and they helped me reconnect with God and they loved me well until I could love myself well. And they promised me that they would do that. And that is what they offered me. And those relationships that I made through Alcoholics Anonymous eventually led me to a relationship with Jesus. I had a sponsor named Ellen who loved God more than anyone I've ever met. And she showed me the way. She showed me the way to a relationship with Jesus. And that changed everything. The mentors that I have had in my life from the age of 7 until the age of 41, where I am now, are the ones that have stood in the gap for me every single time. When I can't love myself well, when I don't feel loved by God, when I don't feel loved by the people around me, my mentors stand in the gap and have brought me to a place of hope and healing every single time. And we know science is very clear about this, that the number one predictor of a child's success is their relationship, their emotional connection with their primary caregiver, their mom, their dad, whoever that may be. But we also know that when those relationships with the primary caregiver are broken or strained or stressful or abusive, that it is the other caring adults that throw a lifeline to the child and repair those broken attachments and provide healing and hope for the future. And there is a quote that I like to remind mentors of every single day, that we are all one caring adult away from a success story. I had many of those caring adults in my life. And because of that, I live the life that I have today. Because of that, I have a relationship with Jesus. Because of the caring adults in my life, I have a healthy, strong, loving relationship with a man who is good, with my husband. And I have a strong, healthy, loving relationship with both of my children. I have a marriage that wasn't modeled to me by my parents. I have a parenting relationship with my girls that wasn't modeled to me by my parents. But you know who it was modeled to me by? My mentors. What you do matters. You are instilling value and worth and connection and love and hope into the lives of the girls that you are caring for every single day.
We could just put a period right there and say goodnight and move on. But we promised a time for Q&A. So now would be a great time for you to go ahead and type in those questions. I've got my phone here. If the GEM staff, the amazing staff behind the scene wants to go ahead and text those to me. They are saying that we have women from the US, Canada, and the Bahamas here
Wow.
today listening. So excited for the reach that your words are going out there. While the questions are coming in, I want us, I'm thinking about that weary mama, and I
Yeah.
love that you started with no shame,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering if there's a woman who all of a sudden picked up like, oh, I've made some mistakes. I've not been there like I should be for my daughter.
Yeah.
Is it too late? How do you start fresh? I love that we have a God who new mercies, new opportunities, new days, new grace. How do I start fresh if I'm that mom wondering, is it too late?
Yes. Well, this is the good news. It's never too late. It is
Mm,
never, ever, ever too late. And we also know that nothing is beyond redemption and nothing is beyond repair. So, for the moms who are tired, who have no emotional margin, and we know what that feels like when your stress level is up to here and you just don't have room for anything else. For those mamas, it is okay. It is okay. Also, for the moms who are in relationship with girls and your relationship is ruptured, whether they're children or teenagers or adults, and you know that your relationship is fractured and ruptured and in a hard place, it is okay. These repairs are possible. Our girls are human and they understand missing the mark and getting it wrong. They get that, right? If they have lived in their human body for any period of time, they know how easy it is to make a mistake and mess up. What they need to hear from us is that we love them, that our love doesn't make everything perfect, and they need to hear us say that we're sorry, and they need to see us do something different. And so, mamas, if you're tired and you just know that you've been closing the door and letting your kids close the door because it's easy, or it's easier, it's not easy, nothing's easy right now, but it's easier sometimes just to rest and close your eyes and binge on Netflix, or pick up a book or talk to your friend on the phone instead of talking to your daughter. That's okay. Be honest. Say to your girl, you know what? I have never had to live through a pandemic before. And I am so sorry. I was listening to this webinar and I realized that I have made some mistakes this past year and I want to make this right. I'm not going to be able to wave a magic wand and fix this overnight, but I'm going to show up, because you want to know what? The showing up is where the magic is. You don't have to know the right thing. You can get the connection wrong. You can get almost every single thing wrong. And as long as you're still present, you're doing the right thing. We know that when we read the Gospels, we see all these miracles that Jesus performed, right? And sometimes we wonder, man, I wish I could perform a miracle. I wish I could, make my daughter see, or, heal their broken heart. Whatever it is, whatever we want this miracle for our girls. But the first miracle, when I read those stories, I see these miracles, but I also see that the first miracle is that Jesus was willing to be present. He was willing to be present with people who were unworthy of his presence, and he was willing to be present with people that everyone else avoided like the plague. Right? You think of Zacchaeus, you think of the woman who was about to be stoned for adultery. You think of the woman anointing his feet with oil and perfume. You see these people that everyone else, all of the religious people, would have avoided, the tax collectors. And Jesus performed miracles in those situations. But the real miracle was that he was even willing to be there. And we have to think about that for ourselves too. You might want to be able to wave a magic wand and fix everything, but you can't. You might want to be able to say all the right things or do all the right things. Sometimes you're not going to be able to. Sometimes you're going to get it wrong because you're human. But what you can do is that first thing, and that is to simply be present.
mm.
And I would say, if you're tired, be tired with your girl. Ask her to come into your bed, or ask her if you can come into hers, or get on the couch and veg out. Just be tired together. It's okay.
I love that. I love that. If I was tweeting right now, you're just dropping so many things that I would share. The showing up is where the magic is.
Yeah.
Even in a pandemic, we can
Yep.
still show up. So here's some questions that
Yep.
they are coming in. They're scrolling so quickly, so my team is sending them to me.
Okay, great.
So here we go. I can't read these ahead of time, so
That's all right. We'll
we'll
roll
just
with
wing
it.
it, right? Yeah. Okay. So the first one has to do with school. My daughter doesn't seem to care at all about schoolwork anymore. It causes a lot of tension in our home. Where's the line between letting her make her own mistakes and learn life lessons through her failures, or recognizing we're still the parent called to guide her, even if it creates tension?
Yeah. Oh, mamas, I feel sorry for us all. It is very hard to care about school in the middle of a pandemic. If I'm honest, it's hard. I don't know how many of you with your work or your own school or your own projects are just finding it really hard to work to your normal capacity. I am a very driven person. And I pride myself on my work ethic and how I do things well. If I'm honest, like sometimes I maybe take too much pride in that. And I broke down in tears with my husband about 2 weeks ago. And I said, you know what? I just realized I am not showing up in my work to the best of my ability. I just like I see I'm turning things in. I sent out a newsletter the other day with typos in it. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I don't even think I spell checked that. It was just like, whatever, done. It is done. And my husband said to me, well, maybe this is the best of your ability today.
Mm,
And I thought, oh my gosh, thank you for that new pair of glasses that you have
yes.
given my eyes. In graduate school, my mentor, Ellen, would hold my hand in an AA meeting, and I was desperately tired and broken in graduate school. It took me to a really dark place because the work was so hard and I had to work to earn money. It was a hard, exhausting time. And there were days when I just didn't think that I was going to make it. I felt very, very depressed. And she would hold my hand in an AA meeting and she would take a Sharpie and she would put a capital D is greater than P. And she would write it on my hand every day. And she would say, done is better than perfect. I don't care if you turn that in and don't get the grade that you want. Done is better than perfect. Complete the task. And mamas, I'm going to tell you, some of our girls are A+ students and they're carrying on being A+ students right now. Some of our girls are A+ students and they are not carrying on with their A+ work right now. Some of our girls were never A+ students and they are falling lower and lower in the grading scale as they go on. And we need to encourage them, but we do not need to pile stress on. We are in this pandemic and we have stressors coming from every single area. And we have never had to live through life like this before. And our girls haven't either. And we have to help them understand that, yes, we would like them to be able to perform to the best of their ability, but their identity is not linked to their performance. Their identity is the same in Christ, whether they get an A or a C or an F. And that's how, oh, mamas, it just hurt my heart to even say it out loud because I hate when my daughter, it's when my girls get an F and they feel disappointed in themselves. I hate seeing that. But I am the one who is here to instill their identity and to
Mm,
instill their self-worth and their value. I am not here to grade them. And if their grades are lower than the best of their ability, I just say, if you tried your best, I am proud of you. And if your best isn't your best today, isn't your normal best today, done is better than perfect. Turn it in, show your teacher that you value and respect them, but don't expect the same performance today as a year ago, because none of us are performing at the same level we did a year ago. We just are not. So
mm,
I hope that's helpful. I think release them from the expectation that the grade matters all that much. We see this path for them and we see if we don't help them with their grades, then this is going to fall away and this is going to fall away. But none of that is promised anyway. And none of it is identity shaping.
mm. Good word. Good word. So the next question is, what do you do with a girl that has tuned you out? She eye rolls. She has shut down. I'm sure none of us have ever seen that. So we'll just pretend with us. She eye rolls. She has shut down. How do you connect? How do you connect with that hard to connect?
Good question. Mamas, if we were in person, I would say close your eyes and raise your hand. If you have a girl eye rolling and slamming the door and sighing, and then I would tell you, I have no personal experience with this on either side as a daughter or a parent. And this is all academic knowledge that I'm going to share with you. Oh, mamas, the real question is how many of you are rolling your eyes back? Because that's me. Sometimes my husband is like, you know where she gets that from, right? Eye roller. And I'm like, yes, I need to remember not to roll my eyes. This is the thing. It's okay. Our daughters are rolling their eyes. Our daughters are slamming the door. Our daughters are shutting down. That is the truth. And we can't be anywhere that we are not. And we have to meet our girls where they are. There are seasons where it is very hard to connect. But what I will tell you is this, that behavior always speaks to an underlying need. If you want to know where your girl is at emotionally, then look at her behavior. Her behavior is giving you all the clues you need to know how she is doing. And if her behavior is abnormal, right? If your daughter is usually loving and kind, but you have gotten to the season where it's and eye rolling and slamming the doors and shutting down, then she is telling you, I am not okay. And we have to work harder to connect with our girls when they show us that they don't want it. The less they want our connection, the more they need it. And I will tell you that their behavior is sending you a message. And we often want to connect to change the behavior, but what we really need to do is to connect to meet the underlying need. When my daughters are off, right, their attitudes are ugly, right? When we have ugly attitudes, my husband and I will look at each other, and sometimes we're like, oh, we're so tired. We just don't want to do this tonight. And then we'll say, all right, let's figure out what it is. Are they hungry? Are they, and Cindy will probably smile at these acronyms. Are they hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? Because when we as human beings are one of those things, we cannot show up and push through and pretend that everything is okay. We are in a pandemic and nothing is okay right now. And if our behavior speaks to the fact that nothing is okay, that's fine. Your daughter is telling you where she is. Now, we want our daughters to learn how to be present in their body, aware of their emotional state, and still be able to be respectful and loving and kind. We would like to teach them that. But we can't teach them that if we're pulling back and disconnecting in those moments. When teenagers are at their worst, that's when we have to be at our best. And we have to say, what do I need right now to show up in this mess? Mamas, we need to take a deep breath. We need to be aware of what's going on in our bodies. Are we taking their disrespect personally? Right? Has our lid flipped? Are we losing our mind because of the sigh and the eye roll and the slam door? Right? Are we feeling rejected? Are we feeling sad? Is their rejection hitting a wound in our identity? Because if that's happening, then we're going to be coming not from a place of loving, healing connection. We're going to be coming from a place of our own need. And that's not what we want. So we need to take a deep breath, be aware of what's happening in our own body, get help if we need that, right? We can phone a friend and say, listen, you are not going to believe what just happened. It was another slam door, another eye roll, and I am just feeling whatever it is, angry, sad, rejected. I need your help. Let your friend walk you through that. Get back to a place of regulation, of healthy, happy, whole emotional state, and then go talk to your daughter. We cannot go at them from a place of hurt or rejection or taking their behavior personally. So that's my suggestion is take a deep breath, find out what's going on in your own body. If you are able to have a connection with them from a place of wholeness, then do that. But if not, then go do what you need to do. Take a bubble bath, phone a friend, and then go back to them, because our connection is supposed to be the thing that helps regulate their emotion. And if we come from a state of dysregulation, everything's going to fall off the track.
Excellent. Thank you for that. If we could see the moms, I think there's a lot of moms that are nodding along with you. This must be from a mentor, so I think this will be helpful for many. Any suggestions on ways to connect with girls when you only see them once every week or even once every 2 weeks?
Yeah. So again, it's just that presence. If whether you are together once a week, once a month, once a year, be present in that time. Set the guidelines for what that time is going to look like. My mentor who lives in California, I get to see her sometimes once a year, once every 2 or 3 years. But when we are going to see each other in person, she always messages me a couple days ahead of time and says, like, I have this amount of hours set aside for you. And I'm looking forward to this, and let's do this, and let's get this to drink, and let's spend our time doing this. And these are some things I want to check in with you about. Like, she provides scaffolding for that time. And she shows me that she's being intentional about that time. And it always means so much to me that she's not just showing up and trying to wing it for those hours that we get to spend together, that she's saying, I'm going to be intentional with Regina and I'm going to spend time doing this with her. So that might be something that you can do, is you can let the girls know in between the time that you're seeing them in person that you're thinking about them. You can ask for prayer requests and actually pray for them. Right? Prayer is a huge part of presence. I have another mentor who writes prayer requests in the cover of her Bible. And every single time we're together, which is, not very, maybe 20 times in my whole life we're together, she'll pull her Bible out to look something up or reference something with me when we're praying. And I'll see my name in the cover of her Bible. And I'm just like, she prays for me. She sees
Mm.
me. She knows me. She remembers me, right? It just feels so powerful to do that. And I think you can send mail. My kids, it has been unbelievable to see how happy they are when they get a little note or a card in the mail. So there are ways, you can send a text message, you can learn how to TikTok and send them, a little video of yourself doing a dance on TikTok. Just let them, just connect with them throughout that time, even when you're not in person. And then when you're in person, just be intentional. You don't have to do anything extravagant, just be intentional.
So, GEMS leaders, if you take Regina up on her suggestion and you start doing TikTok videos, please make sure you share them with the GEMS office. We would love to see them too.
Jem should do a webinar teaching the mentors how to TikTok.
There we go. Do you want to help lead that?
Actually, I don't even know how to TikTok, if I'm honest. My girls aren't on TikTok, so I haven't had to do that yet.
If you would like to volunteer for that role, please feel free to send Alicia a message about that. So here's another question. So what are your favorite questions when you meet with girls on the sidewalk or church or just randomly, and you want them to know that they are seen? The conversations can be awkward when you don't know them. So
Yeah.
are there some initial questions to help start that connection?
Yeah. I love asking the girls about the things that are important to them. One of my favorite questions to ask a girl, and I ask my daughters this regularly, is tell me what you and your friends are talking about right now. Right?
Mm,
What a powerful question to say, I'll ask, who's your best friend? Right? And I love hearing the names of their best friends. And I'll say, my best friend's name is Natalie. What are you and Natalie talking about these days? Like, what's your conversation like? When I pick my daughters up from school, I always say to them, who did you sit with at lunch and what did you guys talk about? And they answer that question honestly. You would be shocked, but teenagers want you to know what they're talking about. And it's a beautiful thing to hear. So I always ask, who are your friends? What are you guys talking about? What are you listening to right now? What are you watching right now? The insight that I get from learning about their musical taste and their movies and their TV shows is so, so, so vast. I'll ask them, what is the thing that you are feeling is true in your heart today? Man, these kids, my daughter is 6, and some of the things that she feels true in her heart today break my heart. And some of the things teach me the deep mysteries of God. I'm telling you, I learned so much from young and older kids when they start telling me what's in their heart. But I once had a girl in our very first meeting. She was about 19. And I said, tell me what's speaking to you as truth in your heart today. And she said to me, I am unlovable. And it broke
mm,
this is the first time I met her. And I said, tell me what's true in your heart. And tears welled up into my eyes. And I said, thank you, thank you, thank you for telling me that, because that is not a truth. But there are so
Mm,
many of us who are walking around, little, medium, big sized people who do not know what is true and what is not. So when we ask that question, what is true in your heart today? We get an opportunity to hear some great truths. We also get the opportunity to correct some untruth.
mm. That's helpful. That's helpful. We're almost out of time. If we did not answer your question, I'm so sorry. They have come flooding in. But I want to end with this last one because this year at GEMS, our curriculum, our resources are called Friended because we know
Yes.
how friendships are impacting girls today. So for many of our GEMS leaders, friendship is on the mind as we have been going through Friended together. And there may be some that will pick it up next year due to the pandemic. But here's a question in that regard. When my 8-year-old returns to in person school and we spend the major portion of our day away from each other, how do I encourage her to seek friendships that are healthy for her rather than the friends that hurt her feelings?
Oh, mamas and mentors, isn't this the $1,000,000 question? When I talk to moms and mentors and teachers and counselors all around the world, the one thing we want is we want the magic tool. We want the key to how do we help our girls make good choices in every area, right? With their bodies, with their relationships, with their passions. How do we help them make good choices in friends? This is the $1,000,000 question. And the answer is this: we instill their self worth. Self-worth is different than self-esteem. And for those of us who grew up in my generation, and Cindy, growing up, this was probably true for you. We heard a lot about self-esteem, and our self-worth or self-esteem was linked to how we performed. If you look a certain way, if you do things a certain way, if you're the best, if you're the fastest, if you're the brightest, then you should be proud of yourself. Self-worth is not self-esteem. Self-worth is not based on how well you do something. Self-worth is based on your identity. And our self-worth is formed in two ways. The first one is the way that we are nurtured. So mamas, all those nights that you rocked your baby to sleep and told her how beautiful and how smart and how kind and how brave she was, you were instilling self-worth. You were speaking to the truth of her identity. The second thing we do for our girls to instill self-worth is when they are creatively expressing themselves in the way that each of us do. And that looks different for every girl. It might be the twirling in the princess skirt, or doing a math problem, or creating a science experiment in the kitchen, whatever it looks like for your girl. When she is in the truest, most creative expression of herself in the way that God created her, we delight in her. And Cindy is so good at this. And I know Gems is so good at modeling this, where we're throwing confetti and we're celebrating. Even if our kitchen is a mess from the failed volcano experiment, we're saying, baby girl, you are so smart. And I'm so thrilled that you were trying to figure this out on your own. Wow, you're amazing, right? When we delight in our girls and when we nurture them and provide nurture, we're building their self-worth. Some of us grew up with a foundation of fierce and healthy, strong self-worth. Many of us did not. But when we were launched into the world, the lies of the world and the lies from other people started chinking away at our self-worth. And then we started trying to fill those holes with things that were not of God. And you know where that leads, right? So that's why we want to know, how do we help our girls have good, strong, healthy friendships? What we have to do is we have to create a foundation of identity and self-worth. They have to know who they are and they have to know who they belong to. They have to know what it looks like to treat someone with kindness and love and respect. And they have to find it unacceptable when someone does anything outside of that, right? But we can't demand and expect respect and respectful relationships and good, healthy, strong relationships if we don't know our value and our worth. So we have to nurture our girls and we have to delight in them. And when we don't have a foundation of self-worth, mentors, if you have a girl that comes to you and you know her self-worth is lacking, then when you show up with your presence, when you see them, when you reflect who they are and their beauty and their goodness back to them because you are telling them the way God sees them. You're rebuilding and restoring that self-worth. And moms, that is the best that we can do, is launch our girls into the world with a foundation of an identity in Christ and a true knowledge of their actual worth. And when we do that, unhealthy and disrespectful relationships won't be able to look so good, right? Cindy in her story and me in my story, we chose unhealthy relationships because that seemed like all we were worth. It seemed good enough. But when you know your value, good enough isn't good enough, right? So I would just say, know your daughter's value and instill that self-worth in her. And mamas, this is where the hard work comes in. You cannot build self-worth in your girls if you don't have it yourself. So if you know that your identity and your value is lacking, reach out to a friend. I'll say this, Cindy can correct me if it's not right. Call the GEMS office and just say, you know what? When Regina and Cindy were talking about self-worth the other day, I knew in my heart that my self-worth is insufficient. And I don't want my daughters to grow up thinking that they have to look or act or perform in a certain way in order to be valuable. I want to be able to instill self-worth in them. Can you help me find mine? Cindy is so great at this. Gems is so great at this. They can connect you with me. I will help you figure this out. But self-worth is the answer. And I'm going to close with this because I know we're over time, that there is research that has been done about self-worth and identity and why it is so important to have a high amount of self-worth. And this is what the research shows, that men or women, doesn't matter, who have a solid foundation of self-worth have these characteristics. So listen to these and tell me if you want them for your girls. A high degree of competence. They ask for help when it's needed. They are well-liked. They are persistent. They are creative, and they have a well-developed expression of their creativity. They trust other people. They value relationships and people more than they value things, and they are socially competent.
Wow.
All of that, all of those characteristics come from men and women who have self-worth. And that sounds like a pretty well-rounded person to me. So moms, mentors, ministry leaders, if there's one thing that you can leave from today, I would say it is, we cannot overestimate the value of self-worth, of knowing who we are, and that our identity is not shaped by anything of this world or by any performance that we can attain. That it is, our value is the same the moment we were conceived, our value is the same the moment we were born, and the day that we die, that our value in the eyes of Jesus does not change, no matter what decisions we've made or have not made. And if we know that's true in the way that we love our girls and we instill that in them, then their relationships and their choices are just, it's not that they're going to be easy, right? Because the world still exists and it's still broken, but they are going to be making choices out of a place of knowing who they are. And that's the best that we can offer them.
Fantastic. Thank you. Wow, my mind is spinning in all sorts of ways, including we should have a webinar all on self-worth and how is your Wi-Fi from Zimbabwe for that. So
It's
we'll
actually great.
we'll talk about that later. I imagine that there are some that want to learn as much as you've been sharing us, not just the practical, you've done a great job with practical, but a lot of wisdom, the scientific. I'm still thinking about those monkeys. So I want to talk to you more about that later. Do you have some recommendations for us?
I do.
Like, is
I do.
there, if for the mom or the mentor that's like, what books do you recommend
Yeah.
and what? So I think that we have some by Sissy Goff and
Yep. I actually have, even though I'm in a borrowed office, I do have some resources that I'd love to share with you guys. The first one is this book called Brave by Sissy Goff. This is brand new.
yes, I just got mine on Monday.
Oh, yay. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
highly recommend it. She wrote a teen girl's guide. So that'll trick your ears right there to beating worry and anxiety. And Cindy mentioned about anxiety and how big of a concern it is for our girls right now. Get this book and read it. Connect with Sissy Goff on social media. And she's giving a ton of practical tips. And that's not just for moms, that is for ministry leaders and mentors. I think every senior pastor of a church should have this book right now and should be reading it. These two books have probably shaped my work more than anything else. This is The Connected Child by Dr. Karen Purvis. And this is a newer version of that called The Connected Parent. And that material is wonderful for foster parents or adoptive parents or anyone who is serving a child who's experienced trauma. And that can be a traumatic experience. It could be toxic stress like we're living under right now, or even just a broken attachment. If you have kids in your groups or your churches that are in the foster care system, or that are being parented by someone other than their biological mom and dad, you have got to read that book. If you are a teacher, Help for Billy. This is by Heather T. Forbes. And this book is going to help you understand how to use your connection in the classroom with your kids to help them learn. If your kids are struggling in school, whether they were struggling before the pandemic or they've just started struggling now, get this book and read it and share it with your kids' teachers, because your kid isn't the only one that they need to read it for. Anything by Daniel Siegel, Dr. Dan Siegel. If you can get any books by him, I would start reading them and devouring them. He is a genius and has shaped my work incredibly. He has a book called The Power of Showing Up. And I would say mentors and ministry leaders especially read that one, but parents as well. And then if you know that your girls or yourself are struggling with self-worth, if that was the thing that ticked your box tonight, then I am going to suggest this. There is an 8-week therapeutic group called Making Sense of Your Worth. You can see the past is crossed out and it's Making Sense of Your Worth. This is an 8-week therapeutic group. There will be someone in your community that will lead this group, or there are online groups that are happening right now. I would highly recommend it. It's available for adults or for teenagers. And I cannot speak more highly of this group. If you know that you need help with your self-worth, get that restored. Do whatever it takes to know your value, because we cannot give our girls something that we do not have.
It's such a powerful reminder. Thank you. Thank you. So you mentioned if there are questions and somebody wants to connect with you, is there a way that we can connect with you, or just to say thanks for, you have just shared a lot of words with us. I'm going to go back and watch the replay with my notebook handy, and I'm guessing that there are others too. So where might we connect with you, our GEMS friends connect with you, if they wanted to ask you a question or say thank you?
Sure. The easiest way to connect with me is on social media, and on socials on Instagram and Facebook. It's Gigi and Zim is my handle. My family calls me Gigi, and we live in Zimbabwe, so that's where that came from. So you can connect with me there, and I'd be happy to talk with you or to hear how this has impacted you or to answer any further questions.
Thank you for that, Regina. Thank you. If you don't mind, I'd like to ask you just to wrap us up in prayer in just a second. I have a couple of quick, what do you call it at the end of it's not housekeeping anymore because we've already been in the house, but some just comments I need to share. So from GEMS, from our sponsor GEMS, some things that I want to share with you. First, though, before I go into these announcements, I just want to encourage you to think of one practical thing that you can put into practice. And if that's taking Regina up on the offer of finding the girl in your life and this weekend, asking them if you can snuggle up and watch a movie that they want to or show that they want to. But I know Regina's heart that she doesn't want to just give us a lot of information, that she's looking for transformation. That's only going to come if we actually apply what we have heard. So I'd encourage you, even before you go to bed tonight, to think of one practical thing that you can do. It could be as simple as texting that girl in your life, whether you're a mentor and it's a girl or the girl that God brings to your heart. But let's put into action what we've heard. I'd like to challenge you, and I'll accept that challenge as well. The announcements I want to share as we wrap up. Again, thank you to GEMS, the go-to ministry for girl spiritual growth. There is a girl in your life. If there are ways that we can serve you, we absolutely would like to. We have lots of resources. Again, we have the mentoring relationships, and we have a lot of resources. So because you have attended our webinar, we would like to offer a special discount to you. So the code is webinar20, and that's going to give you 20% off anything in our store. As you were sharing, Regina, I was thinking about, we have these connection cards. So
Yes.
maybe while your girls are at home, you'd want to grab these connection cards. And maybe instead of you just asking her, maybe she would want to ask you. So here's a great, simple little tool. Or as we head into Valentine's Day, maybe you just want to get the girls or the women in your life a simple mug to remind them that they are loved, period. Goes along with what Regina just shared about knowing our worth, that we don't earn it, strive for it, try to have more TikTok followers, but that we are loved, period. And that is the capital T truth. I hope that you'll join us again in March. So excited about the March guests. So one way that you can do that is just send us your email, and then we will give you all of the information for our March. We want you to think about, put into practice what you've heard before we're going to talk about next month. Let's finish what we've done here. And then also, I mentioned that Easter box, that Celebrate Easter box that I showed you at the beginning. Here's a text. If you want to be one of the first, again, we just have limited supply, some numbers for you to remember. If you text 55444, maybe there's a screen to make this simple for you to remember. If you live in the US, the text is 55444. Or if you're in Canada, the text number is this 438. Thank you for that. Look at this amazing GEMS team.
Oh, yeah.
438 500 8300. You might just want to take a screenshot of that, but just text GEMS. Don't forget that part. Text GEMS to those numbers. And then when the boxes are available for pre-order, you will be the first to know. We have a limited quantity of these Celebrate Easter boxes, but we will get them to you so you can get them to your girl before Easter, which is the beginning of April this year. So again, we're here to serve you. We have servants towels over our arms at all times. And that's what keeps the GEM staff motivated, is thinking of how can we help girls, which goes back to those moms and mentors and ministry leaders. How can we pour into you as you're pouring into the girls? So just know that we are cheering for you. We are praying for you. And we are always just a phone call or an email away. Thank you, Regina. Thank you, thank you, thank you for
Oh, you
sharing
are
your
so
wisdom
welcome.
and practical knowledge with us. We thank God for you. A special update for our GEMS friends. Regina was just this, we didn't know this when we asked you to do the webinar, but we just found out 2 days ago that you are the newest board member with GEMS. So GEMS mentors, if you're like, wow, I wish I could hear Regina again. Well, we're linked together now. So that might just happen. So we're grateful for the wisdom that you'll bring to the board as well. We love our board members and are excited for you to join the sisterhood in this way. And I bet we have clubs in Zimbabwe before we know it.
Yes,
So
I am so excited about that.
I love how God works. So thank you so much. And again, as we wrap up, thank you for attending. Thank you. If this is your first time here, hope to see you again. And we're grateful for you. And now we'll wrap up in prayer.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I have my connection cards right here on my desk. And as I was picking them up to show you that I have them, the question that's on the bottom, because I when my girls come in and interrupt me at work, I always make them answer a question, or they make me answer one. And the last one that's on the bottom right here is, who would you say is your person, the person who knows you the best? What a great question, right? We were just saying, ask them who their best friend is. Man, the connection you can get from that is wonderful. So ladies, this is a great way they make it very easy. They've spelled out all the questions for you. So let's just pray. Father God, we just thank you for this time. We thank you for every woman who has joined us tonight, and for every woman that's watching the replay. We thank you for each of the girls that are represented in their life, Lord, whether they are serving these girls as moms, as mentors, as ministry leaders. We are grateful for the way that you have brought them together. We know that you know the deepest desires of each of these girls' hearts. You know the deepest desires of each of these women's hearts. And we just thank you, Lord, that you are the one who meets them in those secret places in their heart. Help them, Lord, to be seen. Help them, Lord, to be known and to be loved, not just by you, but by the special people in their lives too. We know, Lord, that our hearts have hurts. And where we are hurting, Lord, may you empower us to bring those hurts to you, because you are truly the only one who can heal them. We ask that as our moms and our mentors and our ministry leaders connect with their girls over the coming weeks and months, Lord, that you will open up a pathway for connection with deep conversation, with deep connection that will help to bring hope and healing into the lives of each one of the girls that GEMS reaches. Thank you, Lord, for what you're doing through GEMS in the hearts and lives of each of these girls. Protect them, Lord. Bring healing to the places that are hurting and help them walk through the world knowing that they are loved and that they are worthy to be loved by you and by the people in their world. We thank you for this time, and we just entrust that whatever we needed to hear and put into practice, that you will help us to recall that in the coming days. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everyone. Remember, you are loved. We'll see you again next month. Take care. God bless.